Hi, welcome.
Hi, Christy.
Hi. My first question is, what could meaningful community consultation look like in Hepburn Shire? Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, we have to acknowledge, first of all, that there is a consultation process in place through the Hepburn Shire, and that has been somewhat successful in the past, and that there are existing models that do approach this problem, and the Shire have made some genuine attempts to actually do this, and to some degree it has been successful. But given the recent community survey, it shows that there's a great amount of dissatisfaction in the community around consultation and defending community interests. And it's certainly one of the main drivers for Community Voice to look at this problem of participation in our communities and how they consult around important community decisions. And I think that there are ways that we can do that. I don't have all the answers, and I'm actually really interested in being involved in the process through Community Voice and hopefully as an elected councillor to look at ways we can actually improve this process. So some of them in my mind is around this idea of inclusion. How do we include different groups of people who may not be heard at the moment? So it might be more vulnerable people who are not being accessed through these community consultations. It might be people who are not on Facebook. They might not even do email. They might prefer to do face-to-face conversations with people and don't want to fill in forms. So that it's a way of including people, and it's also about a certain style of leadership. And I think Community Voice in their charter mentioned this idea of cohesion in the community. And I think we need leaders who are approach community conversations with a cohesion so that they bring people together and find creative solutions to problems that all of a greater bulk of the community can come together and make an agreement on. At the moment, there's lots of division and groups sort of polarising, and I find that is a problem as well. So how do we create kinder, more cohesive and inclusive conversations in our community? And that, there are a number of different ways through. Community Voice have suggested people's assemblies, which is a particular model, but it might be just getting out and creating conversations around tables at home, having feedback systems for that to happen. It might be going out into community groups that are existing structures, so using the resources around it. So going into local communities, local groups, and talking to people at their bases, rather than them expecting us to come to us all the time.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that going to where the people are, I think is it's a big part of it. Hey, which I think one of my next questions was just around the nuts and bolts. And so my understanding of people's assemblies is it's kind of a random collection of people who are brought together to give diverse perspectives on a topic. Is that? Do you want to talk any more?
Yeah, look, I can talk a little bit about that. Again, I'm not saying that I'm an expert. I have done some reading on this topic, and there are different approaches to how these citizens or people's assemblies are formed. But some of the ideas revolve around this randomness of choice. Pick a selection of people to offer it to people to nominate, and they're randomly selected from the community. Other models suggest that you pick a more representative group of people that come from a range of different demographics, so that you represent a broader range of people at the table all at once. So that, or it might mean it's a forum where people can actually come together and make decisions, and there's a process that we need to come to as to how those decisions are reached. Is it a majority vote? Is it a consensus vote? And there are formal sort of processes to put in place to actually make an acceptable sort of way to make decisions. And do they liaise with council and their local representatives, and that's they're complex problems that probably they really need a lead time in terms of their development and acceptance at a local level, because it really does really need to come from the ground up from people who are involved in that process.
Yeah. And I mean, we do that with juries already in terms of big decisions. Like I think, I just had a few conversations with people about participatory democracy, and people going, well, I don't really understand. And I guess for me, it's about, from what I understand, it's about just making sure that the loudest voice isn't the only voice that we're hearing in our community, that we're actively seeking those others.
Yes, right, yeah.
I had a question that I've been asking some other people around creative ways to consult, and there've been discussions about we're in a global pandemic, and so some of the ways that we might generally be talking about consulting in terms of, you know, those one-on-one conversations can be somewhat more challenging, even though we are in a regional area. And I just wondered whether you had any insight into what your consultation process has been like during the campaign so far. I don't know if you've got anything.
Yeah, sure. Yes, lots of limitations given the pandemic, and it's somewhat extraordinary, but not impossible. We are now in step 3 allowed to go out somewhat, as long as we follow the guidelines around sanitising and keeping our distance, and not being more people than should be all in one place. So I was down at the supermarket this morning, just outside on the foyer area, and just talking to people as they were coming and going. It was actually a really positive experience. I had some great one-to-one conversations with people about local issues and things that I hadn't really thought about, and that's what I like. I can listen to people that way and hear what they've got to say. There was a great suggestion around a local high school and where that location might be, and it opens conversations and opens us as representatives to thinking differently about certain problems when we actually listen to our community. Other conversations I had, I invited all our local candidates to the local market on the weekend, and that's another public forum for people to. It's kind of that random encounter sort of situation where people come at you somewhat obliquely, but they've got ideas, they've got suggestions, and it's a common sort of area for people to come and to commune. So it's going into your community, and that's what we were talking about before. I also had a face-to-face at the pub the other day, just to relax, sort of chat, and had a few people sort of turn up there, and so these are sorts of the different ways. I've had some online. I've done some online webinar, one webinar event around a local issue, and I've been encouraging people to contact me directly, and also via my online community survey. It's trying to open up as many different angles for people to sort of contact me and just talk to me in the street. I've been talking to people just as I'm walking out my front door, for instance. So,
yeah, great. Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's something that particularly early on, and I was really missing a lot of the consultation that I do with particularly young people seems to happen on the way in and out of the IGA, and it's just with our shopping patterns have shifted, and so the consultation becomes it's amazing how much you can get in those chance encounters in terms of I think sometimes when people are put on the spot like that, the idea can sometimes
Yes, don't over formalize it all the time. You need to be open to those suggestions when they arrive. I think.
So another question was just whether you had any examples of projects which are about community engagement that have just led to a really awesome outcome because of the way that particular community was consulted with or engaged with. And so doesn't need to be necessarily local, but I just wondered whether there are any particular examples of participatory democracy that you could speak to, just to give people a picture of what it is.
Yeah, sure. I think I'd like to talk about the ZNet project in Hepburn Shire. So
Great.
it's the Zero Net Wiki Transition project, which is partly begun by Hepburn Wind and is sponsored by the Hepburn Shire and Bendigo Bank. And it is a participatory democracy model. They've come to our local community groups, particularly our sustainability groups, and asked us to come up with ideas and to form a community advisory group. And it's a roundtable discussion that we have semi-regularly at the moment, and it's all Zoom based, of course, at the moment. But it's been a way for at a ground up level for our community organisers to be valued and respected for the work that they're currently doing and drawing on the work that they're doing now, rather than coming from a top-down approach and deciding what we actually need from above, because it actually really activates us we feel valued and respected and to continue our work. And it's also meant that certain people, for instance, their jobs have been created. I've been able to start working and trained in energy assessments, which is the home energy assessments that the ZNet project is doing. We're able to link up with other groups in the Shire that are doing important work and start to understand as a broader group, as a group that comes together in the Shire, we can unite and form a better cohesion throughout the Shire, so we can draw our strengths together as a more of a united voice. So participation at that level means that it empowers the people that are doing the things on the ground to do that better, I think, and it gives them a voice to organise and to make real some of the things that they're visioning, whereas often it's actually quite hard to access those funds or those resources or the personnel or other the strength from other people when you're trying to do it alone in your own small community.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Did you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share about community engagement or consultation or listening or anything else?
Well, just a fun aside, you and I are both sort of theatre types. We do a bit of theatrical work, and participation can be fun. We can think really out of the box about how participation might be. I know that you work with a lot of young people, and it takes different approaches to get those people engaged and to feel like they are important in our society and our local communities. And we need to be creative about how we include people. And it might be a drama workshop where you talk to kids about their important issues. It might be doing interviews with people and doing video recordings that represent elderly people's experiences and valuing their cultural expertise. So it's not all about drawing on consultants from outside. It's about valuing the local people and hearing their stories, their narratives, and creating a stronger, more resilient local community through those representations, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had some really, really fun moments in Clunes, particularly where we've had, we often, for cultural events, we have a crowd. Like, we could be utilising those crowds to be gathering, and maybe it's just a question that we gather things from. I just think, yeah, I totally agree. I'm excited about that potential. Yeah, that's right.
It's participation can be a celebration. It's like an event in itself. It's about creating moments for joy and it just being there's a contentment that can come through participation and that cohesion aspect that I've been talking about. It is exciting, and I think that In the throngs of the divisive and somewhat controversial sort of political debate that goes on prior to an election, we sometimes can miss out on the genuine kind of creative aspects of participation, and there's a lot to look forward to, I think.
Oh, let's end it there. There's a lot to look forward to. Yay! Thanks so much, Tim. That's awesome.
No worries. Thanks for talking to me.
Pleasure. All right.